He braced himself for a loveless life in the mountains, then she changed everything. The mountains had never promised warmth. They rose like silent judges around the small wooden cabin, their peaks wrapped in snow and shadow. The wind moved through the pines like a warning, sharp, constant, unforgiving. This was the place he had chosen to disappear into, long before he knew she would be sent here. He stood in the doorway of the cabin, arms folded, watching as the wagon creaked to a stop. The horse snorted clouds of steam into the freezing air. And then she stepped down. She wore a dark cloak pulled tightly around her shoulders, a single worn suitcase in her hand. Her boots sank slightly into the snow as she paused, lifting her eyes to the cabin, then to him. There was no smile. No greeting. Only a quiet acceptance that cut deeper than fear. This was his wife. Not by love. Not by choice. By necessity. He had agreed to the marriage months ago, after the letter arrived. Formal, brief, and impossible to refuse. A woman from the valley. No family left. No dowry worth mentioning. In return, he would gain legal claim to the land, protection from seizure, and silence from the town elders. He had expected bitterness. Complaints. Tears. But she offered none. Without a word, she walked past him into the cabin. That was how their marriage began. The first weeks passed like a long winter night. They spoke only when necessary. About wood. About water. About the coming storms. She cooked quietly, cleaned methodically, and kept to herself. At night, she slept on the far edge of the bed, her back turned, her presence felt but untouched. He told himself this was good. This was what he wanted. No expectations. No emotional debt. No pain. The mountains had taught him that closeness only led to loss. But there were moments, small, dangerous moments, that began to crack the silence. One evening, he returned from the forest with frostbitten hands and a limp from the ice. Without asking, she took his coat, placed his hands near the fire, and wrapped them in cloth soaked in warm water. Her touch was careful, almost reverent. "Thank you," he muttered. She nodded, eyes downcast. And that was all. The storms came early that year. Snow buried the fences. The path to the valley vanished beneath white silence. They were alone now, truly alone. Just the cabin, the mountains, and each other. One night, the wind screamed so violently that the walls groaned. The fire died. The cold crept in like a living thing. She woke shivering. Without a word, he pulled another blanket over her, his arm hovering awkwardly before finally resting between them, not touching, but close enough to offer warmth. She didn't pull away. In the darkness, she whispered, "I was afraid you hated me." He stiffened. "I don't," he said after a long pause. "I just didn't expect anything else from life." She turned toward him then, her voice soft but steady. "Neither did I." That night, something shifted. Not love. But understanding. As winter deepened, so did their quiet companionship. She began to hum while cooking, soft, old melodies that seemed to belong to the mountains themselves. He noticed how she repaired torn clothes with precise stitches, how she left small pieces of bread for birds near the window, how she watched the sunrise every morning as if it were a promise. One afternoon, she followed him outside. "I want to learn," she said, nodding toward the axe. He hesitated. Then handed it to her. Her first swing missed entirely. The second struck weakly. The third split the log clean in two. She smiled then, not at him, but at herself. And for the first time, he realized how rare that smile must have been. That night, they laughed together. Quietly. As if afraid the mountains might hear. Spring arrived slowly, reluctantly. The snow melted into rivers. Green pushed through white. And with it came memories he had buried deep. One evening, as they sat on the cabin steps, he finally spoke of the woman he had once loved. The one who died in childbirth, the grief that drove him into the mountains, the belief that love was a debt always collected too soon. She listened without interrupting. When he finished, she said, "I lost my parents to sickness. My brothers to war. I was sent from home to home like something unwanted." She looked at him then. "I didn't come here expecting love. I came here hoping for peace." He nodded. "So did I." The day everything changed came without warning. He was late returning from the forest when the storm hit, fast, violent, merciless. By the time he stumbled back, soaked and bleeding from a fall, the cabin door flew open. She ran into the snow without a cloak, calling his name. When she reached him, she held his face with both hands, tears freezing on her lashes. "I thought I lost you," she whispered, voice breaking. In that moment, the walls he had built for years collapsed. He pulled her into his arms, holding her tightly as the storm raged around them. "I'm here," he said. "I'm not going anywhere." And he meant it. That night, for the first time, they shared the bed without distance. No fear. No obligation. Just warmth. Just trust. Love did not arrive suddenly like fire. It grew slowly, like spring in the mountains. Quiet. Steady. Unstoppable. Years later, travelers would pass the cabin and speak of the man who once lived like a ghost, and the woman who brought light to a place thought unlivable. They would say the mountains softened. But the truth was simpler. He had braced himself for a loveless life. And she changed everything, by staying.